Hey, g'day everybody. We're going to carve these little people today. They have got super simple faces, really good for beginners. Now I carved one a little while ago, but I'm going to make these ones more quirky and they're going to be easier because I'm going to be carving in softer wood today. I'm carving in cedar, and that's a great tip. When you're beginning, you want to carve in a softer wood, just because when you're carving in harder woods, it is a little bit of a drag trying to get rid of the hardwood before you actually start carving. So if you can get rid of that softwood quickly, get onto the carving, that's where you're going to be doing the learning. So yeah, so let's get on with carving these quirky little people.
Okay, so I am carving in scrap wood today. I got 3 pieces here. Now you want to do 3 because they kind of just look good in 3s. I'm not sure why. Now I've sort of like decided that's going to be the top, and we're going to round that off. Let's look at the side. Oh, so just draw kind of like a rough profile in. But we've got it at the start. This is probably maybe one of the parts that's going to take the most time to do in this carving. Now if you've got a bandsaw, if you're good at bandsawing, you could take these edges off more quickly. I guess you could hand saw them off as well, or you could use a Kutzall flame burr, whatever sort of like you've got in your arsenal of tools. And if you start down the road of power carving, you're probably going to end up with everything anyway at some stage. I've certainly got a bandsaw, and it is very useful for this kind of work. But if you've only got a flame burr, go with that and just do the best you can. Now another great Kutzall burr for sort of like rounding off things is this kind of cylinder burr. This is the extreme or very coarse one, and it's just good because it's kind of got a flat edge and you can sort of take down the corners quite quickly, whereas if you're using the flame burr, you're kind of fighting against the concave that you're making with the flame burr. It's not essential that you have one of these, so you can do it all with a flame burr if you want. Now what I tend to do is I work on the 4 sides, and then I will work on the corners and make the whole thing rounder. Now when you're removing a lot of wood, it's kind of easier if you just do it in little strips as well. Sort of don't go sort of like trying to really force the shape. So you can sort of see here that I'm working on those 4 sides. I might kind of round that top out a little bit more, and just sort of like getting a general shape, getting a kind of a feel for it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now you've tend to got those 4 sides kind of in a general kind of shape. You don't have to be too pedantic about this. What you want to do next is you want to work on the corner. Hang on a second, I get sneeze. Well, cough. Okay, so work on those corners and sort of like, then you're bringing it all together. It's sort of like you want to make it look like a blob, I guess you would say. That's what I'm going for, a blob. So you want to kind of like make it look like gravity is sort of like working on sort of like jelly or something like that. That's what you kind of think of. So I'm going to try and take a little bit more out of that side to give it a little bit of a curve on that side that I'm just working on now. So I've got that curve kind of sorted out on that right hand side. You can sort of see how it flows down. And now I'm swapping over to a sanding disc. The reason why you can do this is because this is very soft wood. I think the grit on this paper is an 80 grit, so you can sort of see there it's still taking off a lot of wood, and it's really nice because it's got like a flat surface on there, so you can really start to make this into a organic kind of round shape. Okay, so I didn't really think that round sort of concave there was going in enough, so I've gone back with the Kutzall flame burr, really good for this, or a spherical burr would be good for this as well, and just taking off a little bit more of that and just sort of smoothing it out as I go along, and then I will go back with that sanding mandrel and smooth it out again. Never be afraid to go back and take more out. You can always... You know, sometimes you're going to stuff your carving up by doing that, but most of the time it's going to work out a lot better because you've taken, you've got the courage to sort of go beyond being safe. You know, you don't want to be safe in carving. You want to push a few things. You know. Okay, so now that you're happy with the shape, what you want to do is you want to go back and you want to start sanding again. Now this sanding pad is one of my favorite sanding pads. It is from Palwell. I think you say it like that. Now I did do a review of it, and the people who have bought it so far really enjoy it, and yeah, it's a great little piece of kit. Sanding is not a fun job, so if you can get some tools to do it a little bit faster for you, that's awesome. And you can sort of see here, it's really taking these convexes pretty well. Now we're going to get the other two shapes caught up. Here's one of them, bang, caught up just like that. Got the old magic hands working there.
Okay, so I've got a quick favour to ask. If you have found the video useful and you want to show your appreciation, if you could hit that like, that would be awesome.
Okay, so like I said before, this is a super simple face. Got a straight line going across, and then a little bit of a triangle with a gap at the top point, and a circle for the mouth. That's pretty much it. So you can sort of like alter them a bit. You can sort of like wind the lines around a little bit like that, give it a little bit more quirkiness, all these kind of little things. But you will see that even though this is super simple, they have a lot of character, these faces. Okay, so when it comes to carving the actual face, you can do it lots of different ways. Well, what I mean is you can use lots of different kinds of burrs to do the same kind of thing. And so what I'm using here is the Kutzall fine taper burr. You can sort of see I'm just using the straight edge of it to go down the nose and across the eye, and then that little point. I might sort of, I didn't go quite thin enough on that nose. You can always sort of like adjust it as you go along. Get a bit closer there to it. So you can sort of like use the tip as well to do that, or you could use the side of the burr. Essentially, you sort of like just make things up as you go along. When you're first carving, I guess it's kind of hard to know what to do, so it's good to sort of like watch different people and just figure out sort of like what kind of cuts do what kind of burrs do what, and there's a lot of overlap between the burrs. So here we sort of like cut those lines in. Now I'm sort of like using the same burr to sort of take out the bulk of that material under the eye. So I've made those cuts going up to the line, and then we remove the material, and that will kind of form the cheeks. Now we're not shaping the cheeks at all today. I guess you could shape it a little bit if you wanted to. And when we go over, just go over it lightly. Try not to press too hard, because what will happen is you'll get it to like a soft part of the wood, and then it'll sink down into it. Now I'm just doing that round at the mouth and just using the tip of that one. Now it's a little bit trickier this, so I'll just leave a little bit of excess around there, and then I will go back and just fine tune it up a little bit. And if you stuff it up, just recarve it. Just take it back and then recarve it again. Now I'm just taking off the lines there, and then I'm just trying to make it a little bit round. So just go really gently over it. This is cedar, so you don't have to press very hard to take off the wood. It's actually quite hard to get in between the nose and the mouth, so you could use like a pointy diamond burr for that. Just sort of like leveling out the forehead there. Might make those eyes a little bit deeper. It's really like the shadows of these eyes that make the actual eyes. You might get little chip outs like that. It's not a problem, you can just carve it back a little bit more. Oh, there's a big chip there. See that? So what you would do is you would go over it again. So I'm just going to take everything back. Try not to carve in the chip because then you're just going to make the chip worse. So I'm just going kind of like fast over it. So I'm sort of like making everything level with it again, and I will just repeat that process, and I might make the eyes a little bit deeper again. And one of the diamond burrs I quite like for this kind of carving is the trumpet shaped ones, just because they kind of leave kind of like a nice kind of angle. You've got the face of it and the bottom of it as well, or the bottom of it and the side of it I should say. So you can sort of see me there. I'm just sort of like using the tip of it to get into the nose. There I'm using it, the tip of it to get into the eyebrow and just sort of like fine that line up. You probably have more control with a diamond burr and the softer woods. It's not going to take so much out. Yeah, so, and just sort of like working on them all at once, just seeing how we go. So I kind of like using the Kutzall fine taper burr. Now when it comes into putting in the mouth, what I use is the tip of that fine taper burr, and I'll just sort of like poke it in there, and that's it there. Now I might sort of like soften the edges out with a diamond burr, but I forgot to actually record that, but you just go over it lightly with a diamond burr. Now we are back to using this what is it called, the polywell sanding bit, and just going over it there. You can sort of see the grains really coming out nice here. And just remember, quite light touches with this because cedar is very, very soft, so you don't want to press this too hard, else it's just going to take too much off, and then you're going to have to reshape things again. Now, what I always do is I do hand sand these, and you will find, actually you should really go with the grain, like that, as opposed to just going around in circles. Now I think I've got like 120 grit there or something like that. But you can sort of see me, I'm sort of like trying to use sort of like the palm of my hand to get the kind of, oh, it's 100 grit. Try and get sort of like a little bit of a, sort of like a larger area hitting the wood, and that will sort of smooth it out more. Because when you're using the burrs or that sanding mandrel, the sanding pad, it's only touching the wood in a little area. So if you can sort of like extend the area that you're touching the wood, then you're going to soften it out a lot more. And you try and sort of like shape the sandpaper to what you're actually sanding. So I'm kind of using a little bit in between my thumb and the finger there, and just making a curve in it. It's looking pretty good. Now what I did with this, I didn't actually film it, but I did that with that like 100 grit, and then I went down to a I think it was like 180 grit or something like that, maybe a 220, depends on how smooth you want it to look. And pretty much that is it. I'm really happy with how they turned out. They're kind of quirky. Now in the next video I'm actually going to have a look at dyeing these little people, and we'll see what that looks like. I'm going to use a wood dye for that. But hey, if you like the video, hit that like, and we will see you in the next one. Okay, bye everybody.